What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Demon Slayer, the Hinokami Chronicles 1. Looking back at this game as we get very, very close to the sequel, quick turnaround. I actually thought this game came out a year before it did. This game came out back in 2021, second game 2025, an okay turnaround, 4 years. Normally it's 5 or 6. So, I want to look back because I got this game when it first came out, and I remember rapid firing throughout the entire thing. I feel like I beat it in a day, and I recorded my entire playthrough. Even now, I think it took me maybe about 7 hours, and I think I did 99% of the main stuff. The game obviously is very much designed where you play it and play it and play, and you play online to unlock the boards, right? The pictures and all that stuff. So, this game is short. I remember playing it originally. I got it day one, and I remember coming away not very impressed by it. And so I wanted to give it a second chance and see, okay, were some of my complaints right? Do I like it better now? And I will say, in some ways, I do like it better. I think it honestly is an incredibly good recap game for what it does. And we'll talk about, the story and how they handle recapping, some of these arcs. But the gameplay is incredibly shallow. It is flashy. It looks good. It does feel good. It is fun to play, but the game I still do think is just as shallow as it originally was. And this game was not, I think it got a 70 on Metacritic. I think it was always looked at as this is a fine game. It's really nothing more than that. Now they've added to it. When the game first came out, the roster much smaller than what you get now. Now you have a couple different variations of the characters, and they have a couple different ultimate moves, so that's pretty cool to actually make them seem unique, even though, they're kind of just reskinned like a Tanjiro or an Inosuke or, things like that. At least there's a little bit of flair to it. But one of the bigger things this game did was add demons as some of the playable characters in versus mode and stuff. And I remember looking up, this game added 3 DLCs, added characters, to each one. So the roster has been bulked up. I would say this is a much better version of the game than it was 4 years ago, if nothing else then because of those extra characters. Playing as demons freaking rocks, and we'll talk about that as this video goes. So, okay, in terms of the positives, well, I just said it. I think, let's even step back and say just the way they do the anime. I mean, this is a team that obviously has a lot of experience doing the Naruto games. And I've said before, I'm not even a big Naruto guy. I kind of want to get more into it, but I have always loved the Ultimate Ninja Storm games, and I know not everybody loves them. I feel like maybe people that like Naruto a lot, maybe they were disappointed with it, which is probably fair. But, again, me not being too much of a fan, I always have thought that those games were extremely good, and the story moments and those big, doing the quick time events, I always appreciated those, but I was never all that much into Naruto, so my opinion might be skewed there. But the game looks so freaking good. The voice work is great. The music is great. The visuals, I think about some of the big moments, I think chapter 5 when they're going through the forest and going through that arc. It's a very long arc, and they nail a lot of it. It's just, all these characters look beautiful, visually. Some of the big gameplay moments. And, I kind of wish, like I said with Naruto, those moments of the quick time events, right? Basically when you're taking out a boss. The issue is you think about the early days of Demon Slayer, and there's not as many high risk, kind of areas and people that you're going after, or demons that you're going after. It starts to heat up really in the second game. So I think the second game has a lot more going for it just because of the story content that it's covering, right? But I think about the train, the very last mission of this game. It's really well done. You think about some of those last battles, and they are spectacular to watch. And I think, that's the tough thing with this game is oftentimes you are watching it, and, that's fair. I actually want to go back and watch the show to get ready for the movie that comes out, at least in the U.S. in September. I've caught up. I know what's going on, but I want to kind of just rewatch it. This is a great way, I think, of, they have to pick their moments. They have to pick the big, important story moments to put in the story, and then, the rest is looked at through these memory kind of fragments, right? You find the collectibles, let's say, throughout the world, and then when you're on those boards. And I like the simplicity. It's tough because I think on one side of things you can say it is a very empty and whatever the opposite of dense, which is probably also empty, just world. There's so many levels, even early on, right, when they're kidnapping the girls at night. that mission is just walking through streets. I mean, and that's like the most in-depth it gets, by the way. You're walking through streets, you're talking to people. Nobody has anything all that incredible to say, right? And again, I think that's what they're trying to improve upon. In the second game, they've kind of talked about like side quests and things you can do in the world. In the first game, quite literally, it's looking around for points that you can use, later on to buy like the board, right, the pictures. You're looking for the memory fragments. You're looking for the blue explanation points to, do some sort of side objective, but none of them are ever anything. Like, to be really fair, the game is hollow, and maybe that's the opposite word of dense. The game is insanely hollow. It serves two purposes. It serves retelling the story, and then sometimes it lets you play it. And we'll talk about when it lets you play in a second. But no, I will say when it's retelling it, I think it does a really good job. I do think it picks its moments rather well. Again, it kind of does have an uphill battle. You think about like when they're brought back from like that main mission and they're just training, right? They're rehabilitating and then they're training. And I mean, that is a long time. And so in the game, it's really, the Hashira meeting where they're, putting him on trial. I mean, it lasts maybe 15 minutes in this game, because like we're not going to show a freaking hour's worth of them doing this stuff. And then the training part, again, like that's a little bit of filler. It just factually is. You need some filler, and that's pacing, right, with the show to counter the big action moments. The issue is in the game, the first couple chapters, there's really not all that much that happens. And then there's a big moment, and then there's not that much that happens again, and then there's a big moment. And that's really kind of, 3 or 4 arcs, to the entire game. Well, again, when it's going, I mean, we're kind of just judging the quality of storytelling, in the first little bit of this anime. But no, I do think it does a really good job. The voice work is there. I think the pacing, I think generally is there. You would probably like it to be a little bit faster pace and try to like keep the highs. But then that's like as a game. That's when I look at it as a game and say, okay, like those chapters, I think chapters 6 and 7 are very weak, if you're looking at it as a game and you're saying, oh my God, this is the last third of the game. It should be picking up. But it's like, well, chapter 5 is huge. I think it's the longest chapter in the game. Very long. Obviously, a lot of stuff happens. You're swapping characters, all that jazz. And then the final mission is very big because it's a whole freaking movie, and honestly, the length of that final mission is about an hour. It's almost the length of the movie itself. So when the anime is giving it things to do, I think it does it rather well, okay? And that's really, that's all you can kind of say about it. It's limited to the first parts of the story, and I think they did a really good job. And I would recommend, it's tough. I would recommend it as like a way of recapping, but it's tough because it's like, well, if somebody asks, okay, well, what's the best way of recapping like these arcs? Well, is it by playing a whole video game, or is it just like watching a recap thing on YouTube or something? And to be fair, it's probably not playing the game. And the game separates it, right? Again, it's got a lot of moments in it, and then the rest of it you have to watch kind of as these almost slideshows that I do think are well done. There are a lot of them. I think there's 55 plus in the entire game, because you get 2 trophies for that. And then, of course, you have the gameplay side of things. Now, like I said in the beginning of the video, I remember this game classifying it as good recap type thing, and then it didn't have a lot in it. And that's like the side stuff, as we talked about, all that jazz. But when it comes to the combat, that's another issue, okay? Because I mean, it's flashy, it looks really good. The issue I think I have is that characters, and I mean, look, I haven't played the Naruto games in a very long time, and I also never played them as a diehard. Dragon Ball games, I've played those, but, I don't know if this is absolutely the norm for this genre, but I think a big issue with this game was kind of giving us these characters with every move possible in the beginning. So what I mean by that is, like, in the beginning of the game, when you're learning how to play as Tanjiro, the difference between that and the ending is the exact same. He fights. There's no added things that he can do. Now, yeah, he kind of unlocks that, like, flame element to him, right? So I guess the moveset kind of evolves at times, but it's locked in terms of the story. So I just think that kind of worked against the game, where you're fighting generally the same enemies. I will say the boss fights are a lot better, and the boss fights kind of make you... I mean, that's a standout. I will say, like, when you're fighting, whether it's, like, actual demons, like, in the hierarchy, or whether it's just kind of, like, the lower-level grunts, some of them are pretty unique, especially when they're like the main deal, like the actual boss type demons. They got move sets, and you have to watch out for like the red areas or the circles and all that stuff. And they're pretty solid. The issue is just you're doing the same thing. It's still the same form of water technique that he's using whenever you press, say, triangle with me playing on PlayStation. It's the same stuff. And again, it's a back and forth because like it is satisfying enough. It's fine. Again, those ending like quick time events are pretty cool. Even like when they're training and they do that quick time like mini game, I'm very good at those, by the way, and I like those. And that's just something that kind of gets thrown at you late in the game. It's very different, but it's small, right? I think that kind of helped it overall. I think the game probably needed more of that because it's tough. Like I think about the final chapter with the train. So much of that, I put the controller down. You talk about like a Hideo Kojima game or something like that. I put the controller down multiple times in this game for like 20 plus minutes each time. And again, like, okay, that's when you're taking in the story and you're just kind of recapping it if you've already seen it, right? So that's fine. But then when you get into it, it's like, this is, I've done this before. And the characters are fine. I mean, like I said, the added characters are super cool. Playing as those demons, they are the most unique, and it's tough because it's like, well, everybody does feel pretty good. Like those demons are pretty cool, and a couple of them feel different. There's some that are like the ranged ones, the one with like the arrow and then the one that throws like dodgeballs at you. They behave very similarly in terms of their mechanics, which is okay. That's like generally how game development works. So I'm okay with that. But, they feel very different. Tanjiro from like Zenitsu, like Zenitsu's very and really kind of the way the character is, right, when he's in that fighting stage, he's almost very stiff and very like he has emphasis on certain moves, the thunderclap and all that stuff. So I really do like the differences of them. Rengoku is freaking awesome, right? Like, so there is enough there to at least make you play as everybody wants. And that's kind of what I did. Through the story, you'll be able to play as an okay amount of them, just kind of naturally. And then if you do, like when they're in the boards and there's like that demon fight, for each chapter, that's when I always like tried out the new character. So when you unlocked like one of the Hashiras, I would play as one of them and say, okay, let's just try them out to see how they are. I mean, like, the ultimate moves are all cool, all visually extremely, extremely cool. It's got that anime flair. It's got that Cyber Connect flair that you're used to with the Naruto stuff. Like, it is rock solid, in a lot of ways. It's just, I don't know. That's the way that I would think in my head. Like, if you're going to make it a little bit more in-depth, maybe start them out like with a limited move set. And that is tough because like when you're programming it, you have like the button combinations and stuff. So I get why that would be difficult, but I don't know. I just felt within the first 2 hours, you're going to fight these demons very, very much the same way as you do at the end of the game. There's really no deviation for how you fight. There's no extra moves you learn. There's, the only thing that they try to do is spice things up is sometimes swap characters out or sometimes let you call in like the support person to help you, which functions, very similarly to the games of the past, right? You call them in, they can take a hit for you or they can do a hit. It's solid. I mean, that's the way that I handled it. As I went through the entire story, tried to play through as many different characters as I could through those demons, and then like the demons for each chapter, and then I went to the versus mode, and just anybody that I didn't try yet, I just played like once or twice. And that's just, that's the weakness. It's not a game that you're gonna play, I think, and I think that's why I felt a little low on it originally, is it was just, I don't know, it felt like such a short story. I think again, like what they're limited with is what they're limited with, but I think that's where you kind of have to add side content, and you actually have to put like a real effort into doing that, because without doing that, you're playing a 6-7 hour game. And that's, by the way, again, doing almost everything. Like, I really tried to not miss a single thing, and that leads to just walking around an empty area. There's really nothing going on, and just pressing X to pick up these things are the exact same things every time, right? And you're just going around to these areas out of your way. If you didn't do that, you would probably shave off maybe an hour or so of the game, so now it's an hour less, right? And then it's like, okay, well, I want to play as the characters I didn't play in the story. that's not going to take you all that long. And there's not, I don't know, there's not really like hidden move sets to find. Like there is ways of parrying and blocking and kind of sidestepping and striking. Like there is definitely a little bit of strategy in this game, but it's not something like you're going to need to study each character for 20 hours for to really unlock their potential. That's not really this game. And that, that's okay, but I mean, it just leads to a game that, again, feels a little bit hollow. So I enjoyed it. I actually think it picks up, and I think they really jump around and are more selective, and probably in a bad way more selective in the beginning, but towards like the middle of this game, like from probably chapter 4 on, like they're just telling, like if you watch the show, they're really cutting out a lot of the stuff that you'd actually be okay with them cutting out, repurposing things into other mediums of watching it, right, and telling you the story, and you get through it and you're done. And so I will say this, I'm more excited now than I was before playing this game. I overall do come out of this game liking it. Like, I do think it's a good time, probably just because I like the property. It is flashy. It's nice to look at. The finishing moves are cool, right? Like, some of that stuff is just cool. So let me know what you guys think about the game in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.